I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. According to Wikipedia, quote, the newly organized Texian army, determined to put a decisive end to Mexican control over Texas, began marching towards San Antonio de Béjar on October 13, 1835. Days earlier, General Martín Perfecto de Cos, brother-in-law of the Mexican president, had arrived in Béjar to take command of all the Mexican forces in Texas. By October 20th, the Texians, led by Stephen F. Austin, the first empresario to bring English-speaking settlers to Texas, had reached Salado Creek and initiated a siege of Béjar. To keep the Texians from examining Mexican defensive measures, Mexican troops attempted to restrict access to and from the city. Despite those efforts, several people were able to leave their homes and join the Texians. Among those was James Bowie, who was well known for his fighting prowess. Stories of his exploits in the sandbar fight and his search for the lost San Saba mine had been widely reported. On October 22nd, Austin named Bowie a colonel and gave him joint command of the 1st Battalion with Captain James W. Fannin. Before nightfall, the 1st Battalion began a reconnaissance mission to evaluate the former missions around San Antonio as potential campsites. Locals familiar with the area, Juan Seguin and his Texians, would guide the men along the river. After investigating 3 of the missions, Bowie and Fannin selected Mission San Francisco de la Espada as the most promising campsite. The rest of the Texian army joined them there early. Bowie and Fannin were accompanied by 90 soldiers divided into 4 companies, led by Captains Andrew Briscoe, Robert Coleman, Michael Goheen, and Valentine Bennett. The group took a northerly route following the San Antonio River past missions San Juan and San Jose. Along the way, they encountered a small party of Mexican scouts who retreated to Béjar after a brief skirmish. Approximately 2 miles from San Antonio de Béjar and 6 miles from the Texian camp at Espada, the Texian scouting party stopped at Mission Concepcion. 500 yards west of the mission, the San Antonio River curved in a small horseshoe shape, with the 2 sides of the river's curve approximately 100 yards apart. According to historian Alwyn Barr, quote, trees shaded both sides of the broad river bottom, which lay about 6 feet below the level of the rolling prairie nearby, end quote. Rather than return immediately to Austin, as their orders specified, Bowie and Fannin instead sent a courier to bring Austin directions to Concepcion. The next day, an angry Austin issued a statement threatening officers who chose not to follow orders with court-martial. The Texian scouting party divided into 2 camps. Fannin supervised 49 men at the south part of the Horseshoe Bend, while Bowie and the remaining men camped at the northern part of the bend. Any Mexican force coming from the north would be caught in their crossfire. Pickets were stationed around the area and in the mission tower, which offered greater visibility. As they settled down for the evening, the Texians were surprised to see a Mexican cannonball, fired from one of the church towers in Béjar, hit just beyond their camp. Many of the Texian soldiers believed that a priest from the mission had informed the Mexican army of their position. Hoping to neutralize the Texian force at Concepcion before the remainder of the Texian army arrived, Cos ordered Colonel Domingo Uartechea to lead an early morning assault on October 28th at 6 a.m. At 6 a.m., Uartechea left Béjar with 275 Mexican soldiers and 2 cannons. Heavy fog delayed their approach, and the Mexican soldiers did not reach Concepcion until 1400 or 8 a.m. A Mexican cavalry scout fired at Texian picket Henry Carnes. After returning fire, Carnes ran back to his company, frustrated because, as he put it, quote, boys, the scoundrels have shot off my powder horn, end quote. The Texians took refuge in the gully, firing from its edge before dropping the 6 feet down to the river level to reload. As the remaining Texian sentries hurried to join the main body of Texian soldiers, Penn Jarvis was struck by a Mexican bullet and fell down the riverbank. The bullet hit a knife Jarvis had slipped through the front of his belt, and he suffered only bruises. The Texian position was surrounded by trees, leaving the Mexican cavalry no room to maneuver. The 200 members of the cavalry remained on the west bank of the river, behind the Texians, to foil any escape attempts. Lieutenant Colonel Jose Maria Mendoza brought the Mexican infantry and artillery across the river to a position below that of the Texians. In response, Texians trimmed undergrowth near the camp to provide better visibility and dug steps into the embankment so that they could more easily climb up to fire. The two sides skirmished desultorily for 2 hours until the fog began to lift. At that point, 50 to 60 Mexican infantrymen crossed the prairie to surround the Texians. Seeing their approach, Bowie shouted to his Texian forces, quote, "Keep under cover, boys, and reserve your fire. We haven't a man to spare." End quote. At 300 yards from the Texian position, the Mexican infantry halted and formed a line with the cannon in the middle. They began firing as they advanced toward the Texian positions, to little effect. For the most part, the Mexican volleys passed over the heads of the Texians. According to Texian Noah Smithwick, quote, "Grape shot and canister thrashed through the pecan trees overhead, raining a shower of ripe nuts down on us. And I saw men picking them up and eating them, with as little concern as if they were being shaken down by a norther." End quote. In his official report to Austin, Bowie remarked that, quote, "The discharge from the enemy was one continued blaze of fire, whilst that from our lines was more slowly delivered, but with good aim and deadly effect." End quote. When Mexican officers ordered a charge on the South Bend held by Fannin, Bowie sent Coleman's company to help. Most of the Texian reinforcements maneuvered to their new position from below the riverbank, but several rose from cover and dashed across the prairie. One of them, Richard Andrews, was hit in the side with grape shot and died several hours after the battle. As the reinforcements reached the southern part of the horseshoe, the Mexican infantry fell back, leaving the cannon within 100 yards of the Texians. Texians redirected their fire to the cannoneers. After 3 different sets of gunners were killed or wounded, the cannons were abandoned. The Mexican infantry attempted 3 attacks. All were repulsed. As the Mexican buglers called for a retreat, the infantry fell back beyond Texian rifle range. The Mexican cavalry was sent to retrieve wounded men and the cannon. As the cavalry approached, Bowie led a charge onto the prairie. The Texians quickly captured the cannon and turned it on the fleeing Mexican soldiers. Grape shot killed one of the mule drivers, causing his caisson to go out of control, and, quote, "careen through the shattered Mexican ranks." End quote. The battle had lasted only 30 minutes. Austin had intended to reunite the 2 parts of his army early on October 28th, but the group camping at Mission Espada had delayed their departure to unsuccessfully pursue a company that had deserted. Lieutenant Colonel William Barrett Travis and his company of cavalry rode ahead of the main body of the army. When they reached Concepcion, the Mexican army was still visible in the distance. The small band of Texian cavalry pursued, but the Mexican soldiers reached Béjar safely. Less than 30 minutes after the battle ended, the rest of the Texian army arrived. Austin felt that the Mexican morale must be low after their defeat and wanted to proceed immediately to Béjar. Bowie and the other officers refused, as they believed Béjar was too heavily fortified. The Texians searched the area for any Mexican equipment which had been abandoned during the retreat. They found several boxes of cartridges, complaining that the Mexican powder was, quote, "little better than pounded charcoal," end quote. The Texians emptied the cartridges but kept the bullets. That evening, Austin allowed a local priest and men from Béjar to retrieve the bodies of the Mexican soldiers who had died in battle. Barr estimated that at least 14 Mexican soldiers were killed, with an additional 39 wounded, several of whom died later. Timothy Tadish et al., in their book The Alamo Sourcebook, estimated that 60 Mexican soldiers were killed, while historian Stephen Hardin claimed that 76 Mexican soldiers died. The only Texian to die in battle was Andrews, and Jarvis was the only Texian classified as wounded. This battle, which historian J.R. Edmondson describes as, quote, "the first major engagement of the Texas Revolution," end quote, was the last offensive against the Texians that cause would order. Barr attributed the Texian victory to, quote, "able leadership, a strong position, and greater firepower," end quote. The Mexican cavalry was unable to fight effectively in the wooded river-bottom terrain, and the weapons of the Mexican infantry had a much lower range than that of the Texians. Although Barr continues that the battle, quote, should have taught lessons on Mexican courage and the value of a good defensive position, end quote. Hardin believes that, quote, the relative ease of the victory at Concepcion installed in the Texians a reliance on their long rifles and a contempt for their enemies, end quote. A soldier who later served under Fannin complained that Fannin's, quote, former experience in fighting Mexicans at Concepcion had led him to neglect to take such precautionary measures as were requisite, end quote, which may have contributed to his defeat at the Battle of Coleto in March 1836. In 2023, historical researchers used a computer program that found that the battle site may have occurred about 2,000 feet north of Concepcion Park, where the marker of where the battle took place is located. Musket balls and other artifacts have been found in the area, but a specific site of the conflict is not yet archaeologically certain.
You're never gonna make it, you're not good enough. There's a million other people with the same stuff. You really think you're different? Man, you must be kidding. Think you're gonna hit it, but you just don't get it. It's impossible, it's not probable, you're irresponsible. Too many obstacles, you gotta stop it, yo. You gotta take it slow, you can't be a pro. Don't waste your time no more. Who the fuck are you to tell me what to do? I don't give a damn if you say you disapprove. I'm gonna make my move, I'm gonna make it soon. And I'll do it cause it's what I wanna fucking do. Cause all these opinions and all these positions, they come in millions, they blocking your vision. But no, you can't listen, that shit is all fiction. Cause you hold the power as long as you're driven.
There's no way that you make it. And maybe you can fake it, but you're never gonna make it. Are you just gonna take that? Make them take it all back. Don't tell me you believe that. Are you just gonna take that? Or will you fucking fight back? Fight back. You ain't gonna make it, you ain't never ever gonna break it. You can never beat them and they're better than you face it. Thinking that they give a damn, you're not thinking straight, kid. No, they don't give a damn, you got what I'm saying? I'm not fucking playing, I'll give it to you straight, man. There's too many others and you're not that great, man. Stop what you're saying, stop what you're making. Everybody here knows that you just faking. Nah, I don't wanna hear it anymore, I don't wanna hear it anymore. All these fucking thoughts, they are not what I need anymore. I'm about to shut the motherfucking door on all you poor ass haters with your heads in the clouds, talking out loud so proud. You better shut your goddamn mouth before I do more speak out. It's about to head south. Never gonna make it. There's no way that you make it. And maybe you can fake it, but you're never gonna make it. Are you just gonna take that? Make them take it all back. Don't tell me you believe that. Are you just gonna take that? Or will you fucking fight back? Fight back.